Ever since Season 4 of Invincible came out, Thragg has been the center of attention for a lot of power scaling debates, replacing Omni-Man. And it makes sense, he is arguably the peak evolution of what Viltrumite genes can accomplish. The strongest Viltrumite in the show so far. So I figured, why not put the strongest Viltrumite against someone who could be considered an exact antithesis to this menacing presence. The waistband warrior Captain Underpants. One is from one of the most graphic and violent depictions of superheroes in the genre, while the other originates from a children's book aimed at primary school children who watch Paw Patrol. The juxtaposition really goes crazy here. Now a lot of you probably clicked on this video thinking that this matchup can't possibly be close and Thragg is going to give Captain Underpants the Thydos treatment. But upon doing research for this video, I realized Captain Underpants is much closer to Thragg's power than most people think. And for this video, I'm only going to be covering the TV version of Thragg, since that's the version most people are familiar with. And if you like power scaling content, or if you just want to see me yap about random media, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hype up this video. So with all that out of the way, let me break down why Captain Underpants versus Thragg is not close. Let's start off with Grand Regent Thragg, who should be much easier to scale off of. During the Viltrumite invasion, it's blatantly obvious that Thragg is far above any Viltrumite we see in Invincible. He casually bullied Mark and Oliver during the war, he ripped off Thados' head, and effortlessly stabbed Omni-Man through his entire stomach with just one hand. Thados and Omni-Man are both high-level tier Viltrumites, with Thados being able to bully characters like Krieg, Anissa, and Lucan, as well as Omni-Man being stated to be one of the Empire's greatest soldiers. But in terms of quantifiable stats, how strong are they? Even as far back as Season 1, Omni-Man and Mark has displayed feats that would range anywhere from country level to moon level, with Omni-Man deflecting Texas-sized meteors, which has been calculated to require moon levels of energy. There's also him resisting the pull of a black hole, which would also be moon level as well. There's also Omni-Man decimating the Flaxen planet's surface, which would be in the country level ranges of power. However, the scaling for this series gets more impressive in later seasons, where Mark tanks a missile built by the Molar twins that was calculated to be multi-continental. All of these feats kind of pale in comparison to what was shown to us in the Viltrumite War, where we finally see Thados, Nolan, and Mark destroying the planet Viltrum with help from Space Racer's gun. Each person would have to be outputting at least 1.3 zetatons of TNT, enough to destroy a small planet. Now me personally, I've always been a bit of a down player when it comes to Invincible's attack potency, since let's be honest, the Infinity Ray was doing most of the heavy lifting. But I am slowly warming up to the idea of planetary Viltrumites, especially in the final episode where Thragg says it would take 37 Viltrumites to tear the planet in half, which would require each Viltrumite to be around moon level in terms of AP. And this is all important as Thragg would easily upscale all of these feats listed above. As stated earlier, he is the strongest Viltrumite, and basically one-tap all of them. This is further reinforced when all of Mark's punches literally do nothing to Thragg and it doesn't even phase him. So if we're really lowballing Thragg, he would easily be around moon level, but if we're looking for consistent scaling, he should be around planetary to small planetary at best. Now there is some potential higher scaling for Omni-Man when he said he moved planets in Season 4, but given how he struggled to lift a Viltrumite spaceship and couldn't destroy Viltrum without the assistance from Thados and Invincible, as well as the Infinity Ray, I'm gonna chalk this up as an outlier rather than a representation of Nolan's true power, and by extension Thragg. As for speed, as stated before in my previous videos covering the Viltrumites, they are able to move millions of times faster than the speed of light if we scale off Omni-Man traveling to Thraxa, which is a couple galaxies away, and Thragg would obviously be way faster than Nolan, so by default that would automatically make him faster than light. So with that out of the way, let's cover the battle power of the amazing Captain Underpants. Due to the nature of the story of Captain Underpants, it relies heavily on fourth wall breaks and visual gags, so I won't be counting these as actual feats for the verse. So things like characters destroying the background in their books or breaking the fourth wall, or any sort of toon force won't be counted towards scaling Captain Underpants. With that being said, if we look at all of the medias that feature the character, the weakest iteration of him would have to be the movie version of the character, Captain Underpants the first epic movie, since he only performs building level feats and only broke the sound barrier during the end of the movie. However, there is the origin issue where Captain Underpants as a baby was slingshotted to our solar system from across the galaxy and survived re-entry to our planet. Assuming he was traveling across the galaxy galaxy without any wormholes to speed up the travel, he would have to be traveling much faster than light to reach our planet. This would be more impressive than Metro Man or even Superman's equivalent to this origin story, since they were both in spaceships and Captain Underpants was flying completely unprotected and would have had to actually react to things like asteroids and planets coming his way. Him crash landing onto Earth as a baby would typically fall into the city block ranges of power according to the Versus Battle wiki. The juicy stuff really comes in when we look at the original books and the spin-off animated show from DreamWorks based on the first epic movie. And he gets pretty absurd scaling from these. In Captain Underpants, there is a character called Super Diaper Baby, which is a spin-off of the Captain Underpants books, where he gets his powers from drinking super juice that was made from him. So basically, think of Captain Underpants and Super Diaper Baby as like the Metro Man and Titan in this universe in terms of scaling. So anything Super Diaper Baby can do, Captain Underpants should be able to do the same. So anyway, in the first book he appears in, we see that him and his dog are able to move the Earth away from the sun, which obviously makes this a planetary feat. And in the same book, they travel from Earth to Uranus in a relatively short time frame. Assuming this took 15 minutes to travel from Earth to Uranus, this would make this feat a little over 19 times faster than the speed of light. However, there is some potential scaling we could give Captain Underpants. In the 10th book, there's a character called Tippy Trinkle Trousers, who created a bomb that was said to destroy the galaxy. He lowballed this tremendously, because in the next panel, the bomb explodes and it was the equivalent to a big bang, making this a universal weapon. Now, some people have said that Captain Underpants would scale to this weapon, but there's no evidence to support this, since he doesn't actually tank the explosion, and Trinkle Trousers got sent back in time before it could detonate in front of him. As funny and as much as I want to give Captain Underpants universal scaling for this video, I'm gonna have to reject it for him because there's no evidence to support it. But even without this, we can still get him beyond planetary. In the epic tales of Captain Underpants in space, there is a feat where he tanks a planet-sized space station exploding in his face point blank and comes out with very little damage. Given the size of the space station and the explosion destroying every trace of debris, completely animating the object, as well as the space station clearly being modeled after Saturn, a planet 9 times larger than Earth, would mean Captain Underpants would have anywhere from large planetary to star levels of durability. Pretty OP scaling for a giant thumb wearing a diaper. So with the scaling out of the way, who would actually win if they ever crossed paths? Okay, so in terms of stats, this is actually pretty even. Captain Underpants is way more stronger and durable than Thragg, but Thragg is much faster and more capable than him, given how he is raised to be the strongest warrior in Viltrumite history ever since he was a child. There's also the fact that Captain Underpants does have a very huge exploitable weakness. If he gets splashed with water, he turns back into Mr. Crop, and at that point the fight would be over. But if this were a random encounter, there would be no way for him to know about this weakness, so it's kind of irrelevant. In an actual fight, I still think Captain Underpants would have the upper hand, simply because Thragg's attack power is simply not enough to harm him or do any significant damage. It would basically be like Omni-Man and Red Rush all over again. If Captain Underpants could survive a star exploding in his face, I think he would tank any of Thragg's attacks. Doesn't matter how fast he is if he can't capitalize on it. There's also potential higher scaling for Captain Underpants if you choose to take the Flipperama as a serious feat where he was fighting a toilet as a giant star constellation, which would make it multi-solar system level, further increasing the power gap. But this is more of a stylistic and artistic choice, rather than him actually fighting in space across the stars. But even without it, I still think Captain Underpants would still be more powerful than Thragg. So if these two ever got into a fight, I got my money on Captain Underpants. If you guys liked the video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment below and like the video. And I'll see you again soon.